9 hikers were found dead in the winter of 1959 in the Ural Mountains in Russia. Some had crushed skulls, others were missing eyes, but all of them appeared terrified. What could have frightened them so much? Did they stumble across a dangerous animal? Were they the victims of an avalanche or something more sinister? Join us today as we investigate the bizarre details surrounding the death of these hikers and what really happened to them in the terrifying Dyatlov Pass Incident. It was February 2nd, 1959, when a rescue team combing through the snowy mountains of northern Russia came across a tent on the slope of a Tauten mountain at an elevation of over 1,000 feet. The tent lay in a nearby clearing and was half covered with snow. But it shouldn't have been there. This was an area reserved for experienced mountaineers due to its treacherous conditions, and no one had requested permission to camp here. Upon closer inspection, the rescuers found 9 bodies near the tent. 4 men and 5 women, all of them members of the same group, had apparently been sleeping in the tent when it had collapsed, trapping them in the snow. Most of the bodies were found lying on their stomachs, with their heads smashed in. One of the men was lying on his back, with his eyes gouged out. All of them appeared frozen, yet 2 of the bodies showed signs of serious injury, indicating that they had died several hours before hypothermia kicked in. One of the women had a fractured skull, and another man had several broken ribs. A post-mortem revealed that this man had also suffered a brain hemorrhage, yet he had sustained the injuries after he died. As the investigation continued, even stranger details emerged. One of the men had a pierced eardrum, and traces of blood were found on his clothing, suggesting that he had been stabbed with some sort of sharp object. His injuries appeared to be consistent with either a stabbing or a beating. And what was most disturbing was the fact that the body had been mutilated, perhaps to remove some sort of evidence. And the case only got weirder from there. Of the 9 people who died in the Dyatlov Pass Incident, 2 were never even identified. Their remains were so badly decomposed that they had to be cremated immediately without even informing their next of kin. And that wasn't because they were trying to cover up any evidence. It was simply because the bodies had been left outside in the harsh Russian elements for so long that they were barely recognizable. Their belongings were also badly damaged, perhaps deliberately. For example, the group had packed their food rations in waxed paper bags. These bags were torn up and scattered around the scene. In addition, someone had cut open the tent, slashed the straps of the backpacks, and ripped apart the sleeping bags. The group had planned to spend only 2 days in the mountains, meaning that they would have had enough food and supplies to last them for several weeks. But upon searching the tents, investigators only found a few scraps of food, and it seemed like most of the supplies had vanished into thin air. And those weren't the only things that went missing. During the autopsy, it was noted that several people were missing eyeballs, both inside and outside the site. And although investigators recovered most of the missing eyes, they failed to find one of the women's eyes and one of the men's tongue. Someone or something had taken them. This might sound like a scene from a horror movie, but it's actually based on one of the most famous mysteries in modern history, The Dyatlov Pass Incident. To this day, there are more questions than answers surrounding the mysterious deaths of these Soviet hikers, leading to widespread speculation about what exactly happened to them. So let us take a step back and examine the timeline of events leading up to this gruesome discovery. The group consisted of seasoned hikers who had been planning this expedition for months. They were led by Yuri Yudin, an experienced mountaineer who had led multiple hiking expeditions and served as a ski instructor. Although many of the group members were relatively inexperienced, especially the women, Yudin insisted on pushing forward despite the bad weather conditions. As the group journeyed deeper into the mountains, the weather began to worsen. Temperatures dropped below freezing, and a heavy snowstorm rolled in. The hikers were forced to stop and set up camp at the base of a Torten mountain, and that's where things get weird. At some point during the night, while most of the group was still asleep, someone cut open the tent from the inside. A witness later reported seeing a bright flash of light followed by a loud boom, which may indicate an avalanche or an explosion. Whatever happened, it seems to have frightened the hikers so much that they fled the scene in a panic. Most of the group ran toward the nearest village, which was 14 kilometers away. Several of them were barefoot and they didn't bother putting on their parkas. 2 men stayed behind to dismantle the tent, perhaps to save the group time. And the rest is tragic history. What's really bizarre is that not everyone in the group was accounted for. Zina Kolia Denisovaya, a 23-year-old woman, was nowhere to be seen. And neither were the bodies of Rustem Sloboda, Yuri Doroshenko, and Yuri B. Authorities believed that the 3 missing people had become disoriented and wandered off course, eventually succumbing to the cold temperatures and exhaustion. But even that raises more questions. Why did some of the group decide to flee on foot instead of staying together? Where did the other 3 go? And why did they abandon their supplies and personal belongings? These are just a few of the unanswered questions surrounding this harrowing incident. In an effort to explain what happened, investigators came up with several theories. The first theory is that the group stumbled upon a secret military test and panicked when they realized they were being watched. At the time of the incident, the Soviet Union was testing a new type of rocket propulsion system in the mountains. If the group accidentally stumbled into the restricted zone, it's possible that they were deliberately killed or simply caught in the crossfire. However, there's no evidence that any weapons were used, and it seems unlikely that the bodies would have been mutilated unless the military wanted to hide some kind of defect in their equipment. Another theory is that the group fell victim to an avalanche, but the evidence doesn't really support this either. An avalanche would have killed the group instantly and thrown their bodies down the mountainside, not trapped them on a flat patch of land near the tent. In addition, their injuries were not consistent with an avalanche. Several of the bodies were found with head trauma, including one man whose skull had been completely crushed. Given the force of an avalanche, it seems likely that they would have all been killed instantly. Instead, some of them managed to escape and died of exposure, hypothermia, or fright. Although some people believe that a wild animal could be responsible for the injuries, there's absolutely no evidence that any animals had been in the area. There was no sign of a bear or wolf attack, and none of the bodies had any teeth marks. And that leads us to the most popular theory, the Yeti attack. There are several reports of the mysterious creature known locally as the Manitor of the Urals haunting the mountains where the group was found dead. But even if the hikers had stumbled across this elusive beast, it's hard to imagine how it could be responsible for all the evidence found at the scene. After all, where are the footprints? And why would the Yeti have cut open the tent and removed the victim's eyes? Even the experienced Yuri Yudin claimed to have heard strange sounds in the forest the night before the incident, leading him to pack up and leave before sunrise. While the mystery remains unsolved, there's one thing we know for sure. Whoever or whatever attacked the group did so with extreme prejudice. They mutilated the bodies and removed several organs, perhaps to prevent the hikers from being identified. B. Destroyed the group's supplies and cut open the tent. They clearly wanted to hide the crime scene and dispose of the evidence. But why? What did they have to hide? If it was a military test, why mutilate the body? If it was an avalanche, why would anyone have cut open the tent? And if it was a wild animal, why remove the eyes and tongue? Perhaps the truth is far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Maybe there really is a man-eating creature living in the Ural Mountains, and it was unafraid to show what it can do. In the end, the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most controversial events in modern history. We may never know what truly happened to these hikers, but their tragic deaths will continue to haunt the mountains of Russia for years to come. Now it's time to make your voice heard. What do you think happened to the Dyatlov Pass hikers? Were they the victims of a secret military test, an animal attack, or something else entirely? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more thrilling videos. See you on the next one.